again.
Yes. Say that again. Say it again.
Every strength taken to the extreme becomes a weakness. That's why some of our strengths are camouflaged as weaknesses.
Thinkless. What are we not thinking enough about? Join us as we evaluate our thought life. I'm Parker, and I'm here with my co-host, Amber. Welcome to the show.
All right, here we are, Parker.
Back at it.
Back at it again.
I love it. Every single week,
Yes.
sitting down, chatting about what we're thinkless about.
Yeah.
Because the reality is we're not thinking enough about something.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to evaluate our thought life in
Yep.
order to grow, develop, learn,
Mm-hmm.
and get a deeper understanding about something. So bring us into today, Amber. What's happening today as I sip on my nice, cool water? We're not sponsored by Stanley, but
Hey, Stanley.
what up, Stan?
Strength and weaknesses. One of my favorite things to talk about. Really.
What are you strong in? What are you weak in? But let's.
Oh my gosh! Right off the bat, you're gonna ask me.
Well, that was more just like a
Okay.
rhetorical.
I thought you were like. I was like,
No, no,
okay,
no.
here we go, Parker.
Yeah,
Going to
Amber.
the guts. We're going all about you right now. Yeah, but yeah, what are you strong at, or what do you want to become stronger at?
Mhm.
Right? Like, how do you look at your strengths and weaknesses and the approach of those, and some wisdoms that we have in that.
Mm.
You know,
I can tell you what I'm not strong in is wisdom on how to grow in strength and weakness. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
No, why are you passionate about this?
I'm really passionate about it because I really felt like the Lord gave me a good word on strength and weaknesses. So my family and I would sit down at the beginning of every year, and all of us would sit together and write goals for the year. And we would write a family goal. We would write a personal goal. Obviously, for my husband, I would write like work goals, and our kids they played sports. They would do a sports goal. Then we would write, 3 things that we love about the other people the other family members to encourage them. And then we would have a spiritual goal, so we did all these goals.
Yeah.
And we'd write them all down. We would read them to each other, and we had this little rock. So in the Bible, it talks about there was a rock that they put up in remembrance of the Lord.
Yeah.
To remember that this house would serve the Lord all of its days, right? So we would get a little rock, and at the time my kids were little when we first started doing it, and they had like the little shiny rocks, that come in the bag. They have these fancy rocks.
Yeah.
But we would put a rock in our bathroom as a reminder of what we had set out to do with the Lord and our spiritual goals and our growth. And on their mirrors, we would write out what we wanted to work on. So typically what you want to work on is a weakness.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when the Lord was like, wait a minute. I was studying Brian Houston. He is and was the pastor of Hillsong.
Yep.
And I was doing one of his books on leadership, and he was talking about
Live,
strength
Love,
and
Lead.
weaknesses. Yeah, Live, Love, Lead. That's what it was.
It's a good one.
I was reading that book, and he was talking about strengths and weaknesses. And one of the things the Lord had said to me, he said, Amber, what do you have written on your kids' mirrors and on your mirror right now? And I'm like, oh, well, it's got, the things we want to get better in. It's got the things that we're encouraging others in on our mirror to remind us in the scriptures that we're going to use for that. And he said, what have I given you that sets you apart? And I was like, our strengths, the gifts, the talents, the things that he gave to us. No matter, we'll take singing, for example. Yeah. If he's gifted you as a singer, me not so much, no matter how hard I tried, I still could not reach the heights that you would reach if that was your gift, right? So if I wanted to try, could I get to there? Yes, but I could never reach the heights that you could because you're gifted in that. That's a strength of yours. So what sets us apart are the strengths that God has given us. We stay so focused on trying to fix the weakness, but then the God said, but where is my power made perfect? In our weaknesses. So where we want to see more of the power of God, we've got to turn over our weaknesses to the Lord and let his power reside there and be set apart in our strengths. So he said, what is on your mirrors in your bathroom? Is it your strengths that I have given you that sets you apart? Or is it your weaknesses where my power should be made perfect? So I said, what I want you to do is I want you to go home. And on the weaknesses that you're trying to change, I want you to go put scripture next to that and say, thank you, Lord, that your power is made perfect in these things. And I'm going to focus on my strengths, and I'm going to refine those to be used to my greatest potential that you have given me. So it was a new way of looking at my strengths and my weaknesses. And the same with my kids. There's a great book by Tom Rath, and it's Strength Finders 2.0.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So great.
Yep.
Gotta get it. I'm just saying, we'll put it in the description.
Show notes,
Strength Finders 2.0.
Yep.
That assessment I gave to my kids, to me, my spouse, everything. It is game changer. Game changer. The premise of the book is we are 5 times more productive if we focus on our strengths than if we focus on our weaknesses. So stay in our strengths. Therefore, we have to define what our strengths are.
Yes.
We have to know what that is.
Yeah.
This helps you do that because most of the time your strengths are something so ornately close to you that you actually don't see them as a strength.
Yeah.
Because they just are so easy for you.
Yeah.
So having something like this point them out was game changer.
That's really helpful, because my question was going to be, how do we identify our strengths? Because like you said, you sat down with your family. So they're like, for your children to be welcomed into that process. First off, I think it's beautiful to be able to, identify what are those things that I'm good at. But it was you and your husband identifying those things that your kids are good at, that are their strengths, because they probably wouldn't, I don't know what age that was, but they probably maybe didn't quite have language or really could articulate like, oh, this is what I'm really good at. So I think just a practical piece, there has to be other people in our life that can speak into, am I welcoming people into the telling me and informing me what my strengths are. Actually, this morning, no joke, one of my best friends, I love this guy. His name's Chase. And Chase messaged me this morning. Can I just read you the message?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because it was really encouraging. This was this morning. All right. He said, my man. Good
Let's
start.
Go.
Just wanted to provide you a word of encouragement today. You're the most solid, down-to-earth, conscientious individuals that I know. So proud of you to have you as a friend, or so proud to have you as a friend. And I was like, yeah. And I mean, that encouraged my soul so much. But that is something that I want to be solid, or in this case, like consistent. So it's like, that's a strength, like consistency or down-to-earth, just authentic and relatable. Like, but it helps whenever there's people that are in your life to be able to like speak that. And whether I know my strengths or not, am I welcoming people into saying, hey, what are my strengths? Like, what am I good at? Because I wish we would have had the Strength Finder 2.0, because I actually had that on my shelf this morning, and I saw that. Yes. And I saw it, because that's such a good book, because that tool is Strength Finders is so helpful when it comes to identifying, okay, these are the things that I'm really good at, and these are the things that maybe I can improve upon, or in what you're saying, maybe I can welcome, because we are people of faith, we love Jesus, and so I can welcome Jesus into these things, because his power is made perfect in the areas that I'm not.
And I think that tool helps not only in your family life, because my whole family took it, but also corporately.
100.
You know,
100%.
Everybody here that works at the studio, they all took it. And then you're like, okay, so this is what this person's good at, and this is what this person, and it helps you understand each other better. And helps as an owner be able to go, okay, well, don't bog them down with this, because that's not one of their strengths. You want to keep people in your life in their strengths, doing what they're best at. It's one of the first questions I ask when you come here to anybody that wants to be a part of this. I'm like, what do you love and what are you good at? Because that's where I'm going to get the most success out of you. You know. So
what is one of your, in the Strength Finder conversation, what is one of your top strengths?
Communication.
Really?
Yeah. Wooer is my top one.
Woo.
Which is...
That's my number 2.
No way.
Yeah. Activator is my number 1, but number two is woo.
Yep. Number 1 is woo for me.
Yeah. Makes sense. I get that.
Yeah. And with that, I never thought of this. Let's say this statement first before I go to that.
Okay.
Every strength taken to the extreme becomes your weakness. Say that again.
Yes. Say that again. Say it again.
Every strength taken to the extreme becomes a weakness. That's why some of our strengths are camouflaged as weaknesses. Let's just use some examples. If you're a great communicator, but you over-communicate all the time, it looks like a shortcoming. It looks like a weakness. If you are super focused, but you're so focused that you don't leave room for relationship, looks like a weakness.
Yeah.
If you are such a connector, but you never have any depth with anything, you seem pretty shallow. So if you take those things to extremes, you become weak in them. A balance with your strengths and weaknesses is what you're always going for, right? And so being a wooer, one of those things is like, if you walk into a room, you want to connect with like every single person and move through the whole room. Like you want to know everybody in the room, and that can seem very shallow because you go like, oh, hey, Piker, what do you do? Da, 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 da. And I listen for about 10 minutes and I get everything that I actually strategically need to know from you. Then I'm like, all right, see you later. And then I'm to the next person. They're like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Like that was, and then you do the next person. But the whole idea in my mind is, oh, I got to connect Parker with Bob over here who does this. And then I need to connect Sally with Jane over here. And I'm meeting everybody because I ultimately want to bring everybody together because one of my top strengths is includer too. So I want to meet everybody and include everybody, pull them all together, and get them working and meeting and communing.
Well, that realization, first off, yes, knowing your strengths, but also how your strengths can work together is so powerful because yes, while you have woo and while you are able to communicate and include, like, first off, knowing you, I see all of those, but for you to be able to know that, okay, like I'm good at these things, but I want all of these things to work together so that I can like, because with woo, people fall in love because it's I mean, the reality is, like, I've never met a stranger.
Same.
And I have been asked to be in more weddings for people that, like, the reality is I may not be very close with them, but they feel like they're close to me. They're close to me. Yes.
Yeah, same.
And that's really, that kind of taken to the extreme, like that really has been a pattern in my life specifically, is where people feel a lot closer to me than maybe I feel to them, just given the nature of my woo.
Yeah.
And so that's, once again, it is a strength, but also, like, it can kind of be a surface level thing that can easily kind of drift in that direction. But knowing, though, how your strengths can work together in order, I want people to know each other because I want them to know me, but I also want them to know them. Yeah. Because ultimately it's them that's going to be able to, like, help or support or equip or whatever them in a better way than maybe I could, but I'm the connector piece.
And if you know the counterpart to it, if you know that a strength of yours taken to the extreme is a weakness, then in my opinion, it helps you approach it a little differently. Yeah. So then I can say, okay, if that could make people feel like I'm not as genuine because I didn't spend as much time there or something, then how do you counter that? It gives you a thought process of saying, okay, then I need to put parameters on this so I'm not so all over. Yep. The other thing was when I was saying that some of your strengths you may not understand you have because it's just how you see life, which for me, that was strategic. I would have never, ever said to you, like, oh, I'm super strategic. Like, I would have never said that. Like, I didn't see that. Yeah. I wouldn't have said that. Yeah. But after taking the assessment and then watching it, looking for it, having an eye for that, 1,000,000%, I know why I get frustrated too. Yeah. Because I'm that mindset that's going to go like, okay, in the very beginning of a startup of a business, I think through all the avenues that we should go. Like, I'm thinking all these things. And when there's a roadblock, I'm like, we'll never go there again. So, like, my mind just cuts that off and we're only going to do this. Well, somebody tries to take us down that path. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I get so mad and frustrated because I'm like, bro, we already did that. That is dead end. That is a dead end. That I start getting so, and I could see that in raising my kids. I could see that in my marriage. I could see that corporately. I could see that in a lot of ways after learning that about myself.
Yeah.
So that was a huge eye-opening thing to stop my frustrations, use it for the way that it should be used, and put balance on it on the ways that it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's maybe an opportunity to grow in, or a weakness that you have? You're going to laugh at mine. One of mine. I've got many. One of them.
I think mine are those things like communicate, like I said, to not be boxed around just everybody and not ever get some depth there. The other thing would be over communicating. You know, that took me some time. Actually, becoming a counselor helped me really discipline that.
Yeah.
You know, making a lot of notes while somebody else was talking to help my thought process and slow things down. Learning through those type things, learning to not take some of the things that I'm naturally good at, being strategic, but getting too frustrated because I assume everybody sees that there's a roadblock there. So why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And being sarcastic about it, because how come everybody can't see that? Clearly it says roadblock, you know.
My wife would say one of my weaknesses is passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
I can be kind of same. It's like, man, when I'm in my shadow side, we could say, I very much am passive aggressive, and I hate that about myself because I'm like, but it's just easy to resort to that, to kind of default
awareness.
To that. Yeah.
With awareness in both strengths and weaknesses, the ability to navigate them becomes so much greater.
Yeah.
And that's what Tom Rath and that whole assessment has brought about.
Yep.
Is bringing awareness to those things and being able to function at your highest degree with boundaries in your strengths.
Yeah.
And then allowing what I have learned in my life to trust God in my weaknesses.
Yeah.
Trust him there, look for him there, pray for him to be in my weaknesses to help me overcome those. Just like you're saying, you don't like that about yourself. Yeah, that's prayer. You know, God, I know this is my default and one of my weaknesses, that I trust you that you're going to help refine me, teach me, grow me, show me how to overcome that, and let you shine through my weaknesses.
Yeah.
Let you be the one that gets the glory in those weaknesses, and let me be humble in the fact that I'm not strong in these things, that I have a default that I'm not proud of, but I can humbly come to you and say, I trust you with these things.
Yep.
So I don't stress over them.
Yep.
I don't fret over them. I don't try to become somebody that I'm not.
Yep.
Let me be fully who I am,
Yep.
but refined and purified through you in my relationships, and how I interact with people. Yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately the goal. I mean, none of us are going to live without weakness.
Yeah.
None of us are going to live in all strength.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think it's interesting that you said one of your weaknesses is kind of bouncing around, or could give the appearance of surface level. I have also been accused of that as well, as far as just kind of being more surface level. And I would agree with that accusation that people have made about me, that there was, for a long time in my life, I operated on very kind of the surface level relationship space where I was friends with everyone. I mean, when I tell you I knew everybody, but really no one really knew me, right? Because I wasn't able to really go deep. And so kind of a practical thing that in me knowing this about myself, that I could, my wife and I, we were in LA several weeks ago, and we were at one of my sister-in-law's kind of like shows for the design company that she works for. And it's a really cool company. And so there's a ton of different people there, and kind of, just, of course, kind of the culture in LA is a little bit more superficial. So it's kind of like, who's in the room? Who can I talk to? And while it was easy for me to be drawn to like, okay, who can I go connect with? Who can I go chat with? And I want to chat with everybody because there's some cool people in the room. So I want to chat with everyone. I was like, no, like, how can I maybe stay locked in on this one person, this one guy that like seems like a really cool guy, and maybe he's not like the guy, you
Right.
know, but
What the world calls us
what
the
the
guy.
world calls the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
But like this Xavier is a cool dude.
Yeah.
His name was
Yeah.
Xavier.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to get to know him.
Yeah.
And so we sat there for almost 30 minutes of the hour and a half that we were there at this show. I sat there for 30 minutes and just got to know this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody else maybe knew. I don't know who he was besides like I knew that I had a chance right there.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking for opportunities to be like, okay, I know, because I'm in spaces a lot where there's a lot of people, where I feel like this weird pressure almost to like know everyone.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, how can I stay locked in and really get to know and be known in a short amount of time with this person? So yeah, I can resonate with that as far as that being a strength, but also taken to the extreme being a weakness, where it's like, okay, what can I practically do to kind of hone in to connect with this person? Because another one of my top strengths is connection as well.
Yep,
So we share some very similar strengths, just kind of in the Strength Finder. But obviously there's so many tools, there's so many resources, there's so many personality tests, and there's so many things, of course, that you can gain some knowledge, and we have access to so many things. Which I think is great. I think using tools are very, very helpful.
I do too.
But it's one thing to know it intellectually. I think it's another thing to really like, okay, now what does this practically look like?
Apply it.
Yes.
To apply what you know
to my life. And how do I recognize it? Maybe what I'm drawn to, but in the moment be able to maybe do what wouldn't be natural for me, but also go deeper in the specific strength that I do have.
Wouldn't you say that when you operate in your strengths, that it gives back?
Yes.
And when you operate in your weakness, it takes away?
Yes.
So if you're in a place of life where you're just feeling drained all the time, I'm pretty much going to tell you, you're probably not using your strength. You've got to find a strength of yours. And one of the things that I did in this with my kids, again, they're older now. That when they were little, I started the goals and kept to that. But now I said, all right, I was reading a book and I was working on who knows what development. I mean, I love all these developmental personal growth things.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges was name 5 strengths about yourself. And I was like, okay, I think, I did Strength Finder, so I'll just say those, right? But then if you say, okay, now do 100, I was like, oh, no. I don't even, I'm stuck at 5. I don't know. I just do life, right? I really mentally not gone there and been like, list a whole bunch of strengths about yourself. So then the challenge was, go ask those around you to give you 5 strengths they see in you. Oh my gosh. One of the greatest life applicable things that I watched change not only my life, but my daughter's life, some friends of mine. It becomes a game. Like, go to the people that are closest to you and those that aren't that close, that just maybe work with you or that you know or whatever, and just say, it's kind of awkward, right? You're going to feel awkward, but it's really not. It's actually cool. Because then the other person's like, wait, what do you see in me?
Yeah,
because it's an aha moment.
It's a good exchange
Of positive exchange with somebody else. And then record all of those down and read those for the upcoming weeks, right? To encourage you to step out in those things, that other people see those things, because more than likely you don't see them in yourself. They're too close to you to be able, you've heard that thing where it's, you're too close to the situation to really know.
Yeah.
You're so close to the situation. It's kind of that, having someone outside of you say the things that you're strong at. And then, it's funny because they kept saying certain things about me. And I was like, really? You think that? You think I'm good at that? You really think that because I didn't see that in myself. But if that is something that God was wanting me to step out in more of, to grow and develop in more, I can't stand in my own way. I mentally have to start adapting that thought about myself to say, okay, I have the courage to do this. Other people are seeing it in me. I have the ability to do it. I can trust God in this. So I'm going to have to keep moving in it in faith.
Yeah.
Because I think complacency is easy.
Yeah.
And I think we can get stuck in the complacency. And then no doubt that we see our weaknesses.
Yeah.
We're always beating ourselves up over what we're not great at.
What was one of those things that you were surprised at?
Everybody was like, you're just such a boss.
Bossy or
like a boss, like you demand such a presence of like leadership, boss.
Yeah.
Like, and
so you elevate, just even your presence in the room elevates the room.
Yeah. And I just, again, I'm the wooer and the includer.
Yeah.
So I just want to hang out with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't looking at it as that.
Mm-hmm.
I was never trying to walk into the room with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see that. I wasn't like, I'm about to drop the mic up in here. You know what I mean? Like, y'all about to.
Exactly.
I never had that. You know, I was more like, okay, we're going to go in and, you know, connect to everybody. And it's so fun. I'm glad everybody's here. And I always want, you know, the environment to be an environment people feel included in, welcome in, flourish, grow in, encouraged. So I never, and what I had maybe had associated with what being a boss looked like was different than that.
Mm.
And so it's just really interesting to see how other people see, because you only see the way you see.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
To get that feedback from somebody else was really cool. I mean, they said a bunch of different things, strength, you know, that you're like, really? You think that looks like strength? Okay, that's great. You know, so it's a great thing to, and then even with your spouse.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how does your spouse see you? And I think it changes too. I think your strengths change over time and different seasons of your life, and to revisit those and really stay focused in that instead of your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
The weaknesses, when brought out, in my opinion, are your prayers.
Mm.
Those are where you really seek the Lord and ask him, like, bro, I need your power here.
Yeah.
I need you to show up in this. You know, in raising my kids, I knew I was going to fail. I knew I was going to make mistakes. I knew I had weaknesses. My goodness. And the last thing you want to do as a parent is have a failure or a weakness or something, not just, I mean, you're looking at the most precious thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
And you're like, how could I don't ever want to let them down.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to do anything wrong. Yeah. Okay, we're all kids. And all of us are like, I'll never be my mom. I'll never be my dad. You know, I mean, I don't
find out I am.
Okay, exactly. You're like, everybody, every generation says that. So I know that. I know my kids are going to say that. Mm-hmm. As much as I don't want them to say that, I want them to say I'm the perfect mom in history. Yeah. But I know I wasn't. And I have prayed from the very beginning, Lord, where I fall short, where I fall short as a parent, where I fall short of missing the mark, cover me with grace and cover my children with grace. In the midst of my weakness, cover me with grace and cover them with grace. That those things turn to beauty in their life because it is so out of my control. I'm an imperfect person with all kinds of weaknesses and flaws. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think there were some helpful practical things just kind of as we close. I think there's some helpful practical things just, of course, where are we weak and how can we, as you know, if we believe in Jesus, welcome Jesus into that process. And if we're weak and maybe we don't have a faith that we're leaning on, you know, lean on the people around you. Do you know people in the same breath, for our strengths, how can we identify our strengths by welcoming other people into helping us identify those, by us asking the question, hey, where do you think I'm strong? What do I flourish in? What are those things about me that are maybe unique and different, so that we can know both strength and what can I improve upon? So anyway, helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
And staying focused on the strengths.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Go do Tom Rath's.
Yes. Strength Finders. Yes.
Strength Finders 2.0.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of THINKLESS. We release an episode every Wednesday morning, so be sure to like, subscribe, share, or leave a review. It would mean so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.